N52162, 33.77 Celsius. Pressure, 930.7 millibars. Okay, so obviously that's not our pressure altitude, but that's close. Well, this was uncorrected. This one's got the corrected. This is yeah, that one's a little bit more. It's TSO, so it's aircraft certified. This one I'm still taking, but it's highly accurate. If you check that, it's within 16 feet of our location. But it's probably, it don't have the high and low adjustments on it though, so it stabilizes a little bit different. See, with the high and low adjustments, you can correct the stabilization. So yeah, the BMP 280, I guess, is a yeah, that's the barometer. See if I can get a close up of it. Focus. Yeah, that little thing with the hole in it. Hit. That's a barometer. Okay. So, where were we? Well, we got our nav system. We got these inductive motors are great for like sending results because they generate electricity, right? So, based on velocity, you can, like, if you hook this up to an airfoil intake, then it'll spin, right? And it'll produce electricity, right? So then you can read the voltage, and kind of the same way the odometer is on here. It generates an electric pulse, right? And then it sends the pulse to the odometer to keep track of your mileage, and we can keep track of other stuff too. Guess what? We're going over pressure altitude today. Oh, that's a big one. Turn coordinator. Yeah, those gyros are pretty fun too. The 521s, 521 gyro. Magnometer. Yeah, that's your calibrated compass. This is your nav system, right? Coming in on your bore. That's a lot what to do with pressure altitude is trusting your navigation instruments, like your altimeter, vertical airspeed indicator, and your airspeed indicator, or they're based on like air diaphragms and aneroid wafers, right? So those don't always report exactly what's going on. Like it reports from the datum, right, from 299 and 2. So to get your pressure altitude, you have to correct, right? And well, 1559 is going to be, or 14.7 pounds per square inch is your datum. A real popular plug-in is 2577. That's a real popular average too. Well, depending on where you're at, and you punch in your nav system, it's pre-programmed with like standard elevation, temperature, pressure, right? So you want to convert to your pressure altitude read on your altimeter, which, yep. Well, according to the FAA, what's it, the Aeronautical Information Manual, Chapter 7, is safety for cold temperature corrections. How you like gain 2 degrees. That manual says 2 degrees Celsius, 3 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet. So you have to temperature correct these, right? So you got to temperature correct it. Let's see, 930 millibars, you got to temperature correct. Standard is 932, right? So it's really close. I mean, for 2,200 feet. And, well, our location's different because the temperature is different because of the desert environment, right? On average, we take our average highs and our average lows, combine them, get the annual average is 70.29 degrees. That's our average, but the international average is 1559, and we're sitting at 70. That's why 70 is a real popular one too, right? 77 degrees. That would be like your brunch time in LA, right? This would be like in the morning time in LA. And if you go out to brunch, say at 11 o'clock, and then it's probably around 77 degrees, right? It's turning into the hottest part of the day. And as the temperature changes, the pressure changes, right? And as the weather changes, the pressure changes too. So, yeah, you take these into account on your flight for very important reasons. So, yeah, we get our standard average, which is, it's much higher than the datum. Corrected by 2 degrees, 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet, right? It's 11 degrees warmer than the datum on average. So 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit is 10.8 times 3. That's within like 0.2 of a degree, so that's 3,000 feet. See, that temperature, this FAA AIM temperature correction, Chapter 7 safety, dealing with temperature changes in altitude, right? So if you're landing in a cold airport, it's always going to say, you might like want to add a few hundred feet to your elevation in some of those colder airports, right? Because it affects these are barometric instruments, right? That's your altitude encoder it feeds your altimeter, right? And your pitot static air system feeds your vertical airspeed and airspeed indicators, but they're based on pressure, so you have to and we're doing pressure altitude, you have to get to your true altitude. So when we're looking for how the plane is truly flying, shoot, at 12 millibars per 328 feet is 9.4 times higher, or 109 millibars, right? Added to standard 932.78. That's our standard to the datum, right? Is 1042 from datum, is 29.3 millibar error for temperature, is 801.33 feet. So yeah, you don't want to be off 801.31 or 33 feet coming in fast and high. See, we're automatically at a higher elevation, right? And being high, we're like hot, right? And fast is hot, right? And high is our elevation. If you're coming in fast and high on a final, beginner pilots are going to want to correct and get back on final, and they're just going to go straight into a graveyard turn, right? So if you overshoot final coming in fast and high, and you haven't done your pressure altitude corrections for temperature and pressure for your elevation, you don't want to try and gain that 801.33 feet by turning into the runway when you're already in the area of verse command, and because it puts a plane into a skid and a dive, a left turn skid and dive, and it shoots you. It spins the plane right to the ground. So if you're overshooting final, just go around, right? Because pressure altitude needs to be corrected to 2301.33 at 962 millibars. See, so here, if I set my altimeter to 962.09 millibars, it'll show me on the ground, right? It'll show me at 2100 feet, but that's not the case. That's more closer to the case, because that's reporting right where I'm standing. And even this one's 16 feet off. I tested it. So you always have to test your altimeters and equipments to be right. But 16 feet is real. If you're like, you could probably make up 16 feet real easy. But turning final, if you turn final and you overshoot final by 800 feet, and it's like, oh, final's 800 feet over there. Well, the plane's in a different attitude because it's in the area of verse command, right? And if you're doing 300 feet a minute, right? If you're in a 300 foot a minute descent, 800 feet is not good to be off. It's just a way overshoot. So when you try and get this 800 feet back, and you're only like 300 feet off the ground, you're a minute from final, then you're a minute from touchdown, then a beginner pilot will try and turn the plane left, line it back up with the runway, but then when they cause that left turn at low speed, they're putting the plane into a skid, right? And then that's going to want to drop the tail, that's going to want to drop the nose, right? So, because when you turn, you're creating drag, so it causes it to descend. So then they want to pull back on the yoke, which creates further drag in reverse command. You're coming in high and fast. If you ain't got your barometer and your pressure altitude corrected, so then the plane will go into a graveyard spin. So yeah, that was just my advice, M52162, for doing your pressure altitude checks. Always check your what your altimeter is set at and what the actual barometric pressure is and your air density, because your air density gives you the correction to correct for pressure altitude. Okay, and the temperature, that's in FA 713. If you look at 713, it goes into the temperature correction. And just now we did the altitude correction, because that's the altitude correction. It's 16 feet off from where I'm set, so I got to correct that one too. But this one's a lot more accurate. So then when you correct it, well, you correct it by finding out what yours is. Ours is 70.29 on it, the annual average to the datum. But you always want to check before flight anyway, because if you're flying in February, it's going to be different than flying in October or whatever. So yeah, always depending on your situational awareness, time, date, who, what, where, when, why, and all that. Okay, that was just if people are trying to figure it out, yeah, then it's 2 degrees, 3.6 degrees per 1,000 feet, right, in the desert, and you're 12 millibars per 100 meter, which is 328 feet per 100 meter, right? 328 per 100 meters. Yeah, that's feet to meters, right? So if it's 3.12 hectopascals per 100 meters, so it's the same as 3.28 feet per meter, right? So for 100 meters, it's 328 feet, right? And they're 6.7056 times into 2200, or we have an 80.467 millibar less atmosphere up here, right? So yeah, we're at 2200 feet, so our atmosphere is a little bit lighter than the datum, which is 10:13:25. Okay, that's all the discussion I got for pressure altitude. Don't get caught in the graveyard turn. Go around, go around. Stay alive. Don't try to cut back on the final, coming in high and fast, or else you'll get into a graveyard spin. Okay, bye for now.